Live from the Washington, D.C. area, it's the Inside Scoop. All the news that our viewers want to know. Now, here's the host.
Hi folks, Cesar here. Thanks for joining us. We've got a great show this evening. It's May, and typically there are elections going on in towns all across the Commonwealth. I wanted to focus in on my hometown here, Northern Virginia, Herndon. Herndon recently moved their elections from May to June, and I've got a lineup of folks come in and talk about Herndon. But I've got a very special guest kicking it off, the Vice Mayor of Herndon. Jennifer Baker ran her first time in 2014, and she managed to get more votes than anyone else out there. Jennifer, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good to see you, friend. Thanks for having me.
More votes. How'd you do it? You crushed it.
Yeah.
Message?
Yeah, I think it was, it was really exciting to run.
Yeah.
I had been involved in Herndon politics to some extent for a little while before that, and just started to get involved in town. I was chair of the Herndon Homes Tour Committee, which is a great opportunity.
You drafted me to get on that.
I did. You did a great job. Your house was gorgeous. Everyone loved it. And it's always a good excuse. I was on it as well. You have to clean your house and get, do projects you haven't done in a while.
You didn't talk about the stress, but that's cool.
It's a little stressful. But doing things like that, it was just a great opportunity to network in Herndon, and I started to get more involved. So when I ran in 2014, I thought I had something to add, and as I talked to voters, I knocked on a lot of doors. I knocked on over 2,100 doors, just trying to meet folks, because not only did I want folks to meet me, but certainly I wanted to meet them and hear what else do people like about Herndon. I know what I love about Herndon, but just wanted to hear what was out there.
What were you hearing on all those doors? What were some of any surprises, or what did you hear out there?
I mean, most people were really excited about the metro. Most people were really excited about downtown development. Right. Most people were thrilled about just the progress they had seen up until that point, because there's just been a lot of great activity. Beautification. I mean, sometimes it's the little things, the umbrellas in town that was before my time, but that the council, that some of the folks that are going to be on tonight are going to talk about. That just those little things that you do that make a town feel like home, that beautify your town. Those are important.
I will tell you. I mean, I've lived there for about 8 years now, and we're going to have other council folks later on. Yeah. But clearly, you all have, with the leadership of Mayor Merkel, you've created something really special. Yeah. How would you define it? Because I have a definition for it.
Well, I'd be very curious in your definition. But I would say, I think one, you need to work together, right? I mean, it's a council of 7 people, and what I love is that there are some controversial topics over the last 2 years, but for the most part, we vote unanimously on a lot of topics. So I think us working together, really just thinking about how do we want to move the town forward. We're all, of course, we all live there. We all love it. That's why we ran. That's why we're on the council. So we have that in common. And there's just this energy. I feed off the energy as an extrovert. I definitely feed off the energy of citizens. When I take a walk every morning in town, as my form of exercise, but it's also a great way. I see, similar neighbors, and I just get random people who tell me great stuff about what they love.
So here's my perspective.
So, all right, tell me.
There are 4 intelligent, intellectual, cerebral women that have taken charge and led that town. That's just my observation.
Women do get stuff done, right?
I'm just putting it out there.
It was just Mother's Day, so I think we can say that, right?
Absolutely.
Women get stuff done.
Mama raised me right. I think women should be in charge of more stuff.
And we have 3 men on council who are also awesome. But
I'm just saying more stuff has gotten done with women in charge.
We're really proud of it. I mean, we're really proud of what's happening there.
So you're proud. So
happy to be part of it.
Top 1 or 2 or 3 initiatives that you have championed or kind of gotten passionate around.
Yeah. So for me, I'll just speak to something I love about Herndon is walkability. An article I just read, was it today or yesterday, in the Post about, the fact that Loudoun County folks who wanted the big house and the bigger yard and all that, but have that longer commute that goes with it, are all of a sudden realizing, hey, I want to live closer to things.
Route 7 sucks,
right? Route 7 does kind of suck, and the Dulles Toll Road and the Greenway and the prices. So I think that's what's so cool about Herndon. It's this gem. It's this small town charm with big city access, right? So for me, it's the walkability. It's the fact that I can walk to almost everything I want to do. Most of the time on a Friday, I park my car and I don't use it again till Monday.
You got Friday Night Live.
Absolutely.
You got the
Farmers
festival
markets coming up.
Thursdays, right?
Yeah. The wine festival, the classic car show. I mean, there's just so many activities in town, not to mention, walking to everything from restaurants and bars to coffee shops to the Green Lizard to, my hair salon and the eye doctor. I mean, everything for me. The
a lot
library.
Of hair salons in there, by the way.
There is a lot of hair salons.
Everyone looks great in Herndon. Real quick, in terms of some of the other initiatives that are going on, I mean, the big thing I see is the whole downtown. That whole area, I mean, it's still Old Town charm.
Yes.
There's some modernization going on. There's stuff, as the mayor would say, there's dirt a-turnin'.
Dirt a-turnin'. Right, so I know I'm so focused on the walkability piece, but it's all connected, right?
Yeah.
So walkability, the reason that's so important is that that leads to the downtown development, right? So, I mean, for over 30 years, I think when the mayor was on last week, she talked about it. This has been in the sights for a long time for Herndon residents and Herndon leadership. And I think we're just at this really final, critical, pivotal junction point of the town where folks are really ready for it. Development is ready for it. We're just at that right momentum. And so I'm just thankful again that we're in this place that we can capitalize on that. We have the RFPs out, or the RFP was, the responses came in from 2 developers. We're working with them. And ideally, by the end of the year, we'll have a plan in place of how we're going to develop our downtown.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And what I've noticed, and just again, this is my perspective on things, is you all get some data.
Yeah.
you analyze the data, and you make decisions.
Thank you. All about the data. I should have worn my Data Rockstar shirt.
Okay.
So I know.
Well, you have an IT background,
I
right?
do.
Okay.
So obviously you're alluding, my day job. So my day job is I work for Tableau Software. And Tableau Software helps people see and understand their data. And so without, talking too much about my day job, but why I think that's relevant to this job, right, to my role as vice mayor is that what that job really shows me and what I talk to customers and clients about all day long is about you're collecting all this data.
Right.
And if you have data but you don't do anything with it or you don't know what it means, it's useless.
Absolutely.
And so that's what our product does is we help you look at that data and make better decisions. And what could be wrong with that?
Well, that was my point.
I'm all about that.
Look, I mean, too many people get into a situation, they've been elected, and they want to keep doing more analysis.
Right.
We need more data.
Right.
We need more data.
Right.
And that whole analysis paralysis thing, just what I've noticed is the council from probably 2010, 12 and forward has been very focused on certainly analyzing the data, but making decisions.
Absolutely.
Right. And being a business person, look, you're never going to have a perfect plan.
Yeah.
Right. But a pretty darn good plan today is better than a perfect plan you may achieve a year or two. So, I mean,
I am all about that. And so, and with Tableau, I mean, it's all about agile analytics and about doing things really quickly and iterating. I'm a very efficient person. That's, I'm a math major. I like to be efficient, but you're right. You can really get caught up in over-analyzing and reviewing things. And I think in government and in policy, you certainly want to, we have to be stewards of taxpayer dollars, right? We want to be really careful on those things, but at the same time, we want to get things done, right? And you don't want perfect to be the enemy of the good.
Oh, absolutely. And I think one of the things I saw in relative to the analytical piece is you all grappled with this May election, which is why you're able to be here, because we have an election now in November.
Right.
I mean, you guys looked at a lot of variables.
Yeah.
I mean, it just that wasn't like something you decided to just do. I mean,
no, I'm glad you brought that up because that was, I'd say, really over the last 2 years of being on council, that was a really meaty topic that we wrestled with. And it's something that councils have talked about for years. And our town was founded in 1879. And I like to think about the fact that women didn't have the right to vote at that point, right? Black Americans didn't have the right to vote, right? Minorities. So it was a really different time.
Sure.
And elections were on Tuesdays because that's when it made sense for farmers to get to a polling place. And so just so much has changed. And if you look at, even as I knocked on doors, to go back to that, in May, right, as I was, a lot of folks weren't even aware we had a town council. Right. They weren't aware, they're like, oh, I just moved here, I haven't registered because I thought I only had to register for a November election, right? So it's this, there was some quaintness about having it be in May because we only opened one of our 3 polling places. But ultimately, when you look at the data, we had no more than 20 to 25% of our population vote in May elections for the past 20-something years. In November, especially because we'll have our elections on even years, we're going to have 60 to 80% of the population vote. And
numbers.
Numbers. And I did wrestle with it at first, but once you look at that, if democracy is a representative government, it's hard to say no to that and not vote to change that to November.
I'm going to quote you.
Good,
and I thought it was brilliant.
Oh, then quote it.
Well,
sure.
Well, simply because to that point, you you flipped it.
Yeah.
And it was a long, and I'm paraphrasing. Would I support going from a 75% turnout to a 25% turnout?
Right.
And I'm having trouble with it. I mean, you specifically, I remember you said that, and I thought, this person gets representative government.
Yeah, thank you.
Because why would you allow 5 or 10 people to swing a council?
Yeah.
Right? When there's 25,000 people in the town and half of those, a little more, are registered.
Yeah.
It was really like a small percentage of votes that were actually deciding in May.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting in November.
It will be very interesting in November. I mean, I'm super excited. I think it's going to be a great opportunity for us to get the word out, for more folks to get involved. I mean, I'm super excited about it.
What are you looking forward to? Because this would be your second term, right? You're running for your second term.
Yes, I'm running for my second term, voter willing that I get reelected. What I'm looking forward to, I mean, I think like I said, by the end of the year, we hope to have the decision decided regarding the development. And then we'll have the next 2 years to sort of see that come to fruition, the dirt turning part. Super excited about that. We also have a great opportunity with Metro, right? I had the opportunity to ride the inaugural Metro ride from Tyson's to Reston, which was years and years of hard work from lots of folks around the community. And it was great to just kind of get to be a part of that and see that. And for that to be coming to Herndon, and for us on the council to have just a small part of how that's going to get developed and the decisions we make that are really going to affect generations of Herndon residents and really what the future of Herndon looks like. Super excited about that.
2 stops, right? Not just one, but 2 stops. Right?
2 stops.
On the way to Dulles Airport,
exactly,
right?
Exactly. Good point. So there'll be, the Reston Town Center, and then it'll come to Herndon, right at the edge of town at the Herndon Parkway. Yep. And then it'll be at the Innovation Station. So.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Well, listen, I know we're running out of time here, but I got to tell you, I want you to come back.
Good. Love
either
to.
During the summer or I think after you've been reelected. Because I think you represent what I think is a positive in what's happening for Herndon.
Well, thank you. I'm thankful to represent the citizens of Herndon.
We'll be right back, folks.
Thanks so much.
There's more than just books at the library.
There's more than just books at the library.
Excuse me.
There's more than just books at the library.
Il y a plus que de livres à la bibliothèque.
Hello. You have a lot of great books here today. You know there's more than just books at the library.
I know.
There's more than just books at the library.
I don't want to be hooked to a machine.
I want all the medical treatment available to me.
I wouldn't want my family to have to make this decision.
My doctor knows what's best for me.
An advance directive is your life on your terms. Talk with your family. Decide what's right for you. Then put it in writing.
Documenting my wishes today means my family won't have to make heart-wrenching decisions later.
To learn more, visit www.putitinwriting.org.
1,200 American youth run away from their homes every day. The National Runaway Switchboard is here to help. 1-800-RUNAWAY. If you are a runaway, thinking about running away from home, or a parent or guardian concerned about issues facing your child, call us 24 hours a day. 1-800-RUNAWAY. In times of crisis, hope is just a phone call away. 1-800-RUNAWAY.
we're back to the Inside Scoop. Here again, your host.
Hey guys, Cesar here, back with you. Thanks for coming back. My next guest has been involved in Herndon for a very long time, but she's been serving on the council since 2010. But she's been on just about every board and zoning appeal, every high school event, wrestling, all sorts of stuff. And I got to disclose, this is a very special friend of mine, Councilwoman Sheila Olem. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me on,
I
Cesar.
could read all sorts of stuff. You've been involved in every part of Herndon. So thanks for making it what it is today.
I'm trying to.
You're running for re-election.
Yes, I am.
And you're here.
I'm here.
In May versus November election, right?
Normally we would have run last Tuesday.
Right.
So I feel like I'm on vacation.
Okay.
Because I've got until November this time.
So what are some of the things, and we heard from the vice mayor, but for you, it's a very special town for
Yes.
Herndon, right? So.
Yeah, I moved to Herndon in 1990.
Yeah.
And so I'm in the town of Herndon, but I lived in a part that abutted Loudoun County and Fairfax County, which
Right.
is close to that innovation station metro that's coming up that you guys were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And so there were some very peculiar land use issues going on. So within 6 months, I started getting involved at more the county level, because that really wasn't a town issue. It was the
Sure.
county working with Loudoun County. So that kind of got me involved in working on the land use issues in town.
And it's been great ever since.
And it just spiraled, and I've served on the Dulles Toll Road Land Use Committee back in 2000, where we were planning what was going to go on at each of the metro stops. So that was very exciting. And then everything died, and then finally the metro came back to life. So I actually moved to Herndon in 1990 under the delusion that we would have metro in 2000. So here it is.
Well, hello. It'll be 20 years later.
Exactly.
But you got it done. You
but
guys,
we're working it.
You ladies working with everyone.
Yes.
Make it happen. So
it's really exciting.
So real quick, just on the metros, just for folks that don't, the drops are going to be, there's the Monroe and the Innovation drops, right?
Right, Monroe and Innovation Station, because while Innovation Station is kind of like on the county, if you live in the Four Seasons development, then that's going to be the metro you're going to want to walk or bike to, because it's right there. And then for the people that live right outside of town, over by Hutchison Elementary School, it's going to be very walkable for them. And then the rest of the town, if you're picking up on a bus to go to the Herndon metro station, which is going to be off the Parkway. And if you're familiar with where the Airline Pilot Association building is, they have a huge American flag there, which makes it a good landmark. And then my son works there, so I always think of that building. But you know, so that's going to be a great access for the people coming on a bus that they can jump on or ride their bike or walk.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And that really has shifted a lot of sort of the opportunities, the home sales, people moving in. I mean, it's just, Herndon's not what it was when you moved in there some years ago, right?
Well, when I first moved in, I had moved to Virginia in '88 and was living in Springfield, and it was like, it took forever just to go a few blocks to go to the grocery store. It was over by West Springfield High School. And then I think within 10 years after I got to Herndon, I started, seeing a little more congestion. But, the Herndon Parkway really alleviated a lot of that when I first moved here. And I would have to take my son to the high school. I had to go around the Oregon Trail to get to the high school. And then they finally completed the whole, I call it the Herndon Beltway in town. Yeah, that got completed after I moved here. And that was, the folks that planned that really knew what they were talking about way back then.
So I will have to say, and thank you, because I know this was one of your initiatives, all those cool bike racks.
Yes.
That was your doing, right? I mean, you kind of made that happen, right?
Well, it was the craziest thing. Yeah. A previous council had gotten them and just stuck them in a storage place, and they sat there for over a year. And when I got on council and became the chair of the Pedestrian Bicycle Access Committee, I went through the old minutes and went, okay, where are these bike racks? Why don't we have those? So, you know, I had to do a little pounding and with the fist and say, get those out there.
Folks, when you come to Herndon, just check out the bike racks and you'll see what I'm talking about. And Herndon's a big bike destination on the W and OD trail, and those are the coolest things. So thank you for doing that.
They're very cute. They're, you know, little bikes, and you know, we need more. Right. Which is great, and with the W&OD trail, we call it our lakefront property, because, I mean, people like you saw us because you were on the W&OD trail.
Yeah. We have, this is really cool.
And you went, whoa, I need to come to Herndon, Friday Night Live.
Well, that's the other stuff, right? I mean, you guys have sort of kept sort of the tradition, you've kept the quaint feel.
Right.
But you're not afraid to develop some stuff, right?
Right.
Where appropriate, right density, right? I mean, so.
Well, in the W&OD trail through our downtown, we've got one section, and now we're getting ready to go from Ferndale over to Crestview, so that especially in the nice months when, you know, it's not snowing and freezing cold and people want to walk to the downtown, we have it lit. It's the first part of the W&OD trail that's ever been done. So there was a lot of back and forth working with the park authority and the county and so forth. And of course, Herndon paid for it. But it's really made a great accessibility for the people in the community to use their bikes.
Oh, it's great. I mean, I live right off the path. And it's not like it's blinding light. It's focused down, and it looks really cool. And you can see people walking all the time on that thing.
Yeah.
So it's actually really nice. It's really an asset, quite frankly. So.
Totally an asset in the town.
So what you're running for your 4th term?
This will be the 4th term, and it has flown by.
So why do you keep doing it, Sheila?
Well, you know, I know things take a long time. I mean, I was on the Dulles Land Use Task Force for the Metro, and that was 16 years ago. And so here I am still working on that. We really thought that Metro would be opening a little sooner, and now it's going to be another couple of years. The downtown is getting started, and I'd really like to see that project through. The new fire station, I mean, we started that in 2010. We got it on the bond, which took place in 2011. And so this year, at the end of the year, or maybe at the first of 17, we're going to have a brand new fire station with the latest equipment. So, you know, that's a health and safety issue for the people that live in that part of the county, much less our town. We'll have the bigger trucks and also the ambulances that will have all the latest equipment. And our citizens deserve that. So.
Yeah, because that was a pretty old station, right? I mean,
it was the oldest in the entire county, and previous council wouldn't even, they wouldn't work with either of the previous 2 supervisors. So when myself, you'll meet Grace in a few minutes if people hadn't already, and Lisa got on, that was one of the first things we did, was get that started with our supervisor, John Faust, who has been great to work with the town. That's what you need.
And I've said it before, and I'll keep saying it, I just think what you all have collectively done is amazing for the town. I mean,
well, and if anybody can see my little tree here, we just got our 27th year in a row that Herndon is a tree city.
That's good. So what does that mean? Just as a
okay, you have to do several things to be a tree city. The town council either has to appoint a committee or have a town forester.
So an actual focus on.
Right. No. And we actually, the town of Herndon has a forester. So if you live in town, you got any concerns about your personal trees or you're thinking about what to plant, you can call our town forester and he will actually come out. And then on top of us having him, then we have to pass a proclamation and we have to do a tree planting. And we have somebody from the state come out, and we have this wonderful thing that they give us, and then they give us some pins.
How cool.
So I've been able to snag one over the years, and little Tree City hat, so somebody else has that.
Oh, how cool. But that's what I mean. It's just those little things that kind of add up to this really like vibrant, you know, really like cool little quaint town. So.
Yeah, you talked about the voting that we changed to November. So that's huge. It's really nice because a lot of people just forgot about it. Even people that had lived in town 10 years, we would knock on their doors and they would go, "We have a town council." So it's people get too busy. But the chicken things, that's kind of like the...
So explain that. Explain the chicken thing. There's an ordinance, right?
Yeah, we had an ordinance where you were only allowed one chicken, which is really kind of sad.
Un-American.
Chickens are flock critters. They need to have companionship. So after I got elected, and I would go to these meetings with the Virginia Municipal League, and you have different things about what's going on statewide. Well, the chicken thing had really gotten a lot of interest all around the state. So cities and towns and counties were changing their ordinance so people could have anywhere from 3 to 6 chickens just for their personal use. You can't start a farm, you can't sell the eggs, but they're just for personal use.
I like fresh eggs in my omelets.
Exactly. I like tomatoes, so I grow tomatoes. Chickens are a little more trouble. I like goldfish, so I have those out in a pond. But so the chickens have gotten pretty exciting, and so we've got people interested in having them themselves. Personally, it's something else I've got to do. I have cats and I have fish out in the pond. Okay. That's all I need.
For your 4th term, what's like the top item you want to work on?
Just keeping the downtown on a roll. Okay. Because things can start and stop. Years ago, we were to the point where
elections matter.
Elections really matter. We were on the verge of putting up a nature center, and town council totally changed. They took it off the CIP. So finally, I've been on council for 6 years. It is finally back on the capital improvement project list. So we can move forward with that. We had spent hundreds of thousands of dollars getting plans. So elections do matter if you've got things that want to happen. So I would like to see us move that on.
More so at the local level, right? The municipalities are... I mean, that's what impacts you the most, right?
Totally. I mean, one of my favorite things in the town of Herndon, and they thought about getting rid of it because they were trying to cut anything and everything. In the town, we pay taxes. They pick up our trash. They pick up our leaves. They come suck them up. You just put them down by the side of the road. You don't have to bag them. You get your streets cleared when it snows. Now, the last snow we had was really bad, 30 inches real quick. So, it took them a little longer, but within 3 days, we had people plowed out of cul-de-sacs and so forth. We set the tax rate. But then once a year, we get big trash, and that's worth hundreds of dollars. So
that's the sort of stuff you get in a small town. And you forgot to mention Jimmy's. Always open during that snowstorm. So
Jimmy's never closed. It was awesome.
So, Sheila, good luck on your 4th term, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right, thanks for having me.
I helped turn my child's public school into a whole new kind of school. One with a curriculum that really motivates kids. One that has extended hours, 6 days a week, year-round. With loads of academic, cultural, and recreational activities. One that has support services like medical and dental right there. A school where parents' involvement is encouraged. Where teachers have more time to teach. And students are excited about learning. There's just one problem. My child doesn't ever want to come home. You can help turn your school into a community school for excellence. Find out how. Call 1-877-LOVE-TO-LEARN.
It's coming. Right to your neighborhood. And when it does, you may be surprised. It's your Social Security statement of your benefits, and it's going to help you plan your financial future. Your benefit statement will tell you how much Social Security you're eligible to receive and when you'll get it. Then you'll know how much you need to save for retirement, because that's coming too. The future is in your hands. Choose to save.
The toxic fumes from this meth lab are seeping into Jamie's sinus cavity. Ammonia vapors invade her throat. Toxic gases fill her lungs. Jamie's body is deteriorating. And she doesn't even know it.
Jamie, dinner.
So, who has the drug problem now? Find out how meth affects you at drugfree.org/.
We're back to the Inside Scoop. Here again, your host.
Hi folks, Cesar here. Thanks for coming back. My next guest, a dear friend of mine. Grace Hahn-Wolf has been on the council going for her 4th term in November. I gotta tell you, when I asked her what's going on in Herndon, she read it to me. Property values up, businesses opening up, the downtown's being developed, the art district's getting created, metros are coming, and a bunch of other stuff happening. Grace, thank you so much for joining.
Thank you.
You guys are rocking it in Herndon.
We've been really busy. It's been my pleasure and my honor to serve. This will be finishing up my 3rd term. And as you mentioned, we've done a lot of things. We don't mess around. You know, we've got a lot of time to make up. And one of the things that people elected us to do was to get some of the projects done that have been languishing from prior councils. So it was very exciting to move forward with the downtown plan. We created our first ever arts district, and that'll become part and parcel of the vision of our town and our community. And the arts is where I got my call to service.
I know. You drafted me.
I did. I drafted you onto the board of directors for the Council for the Arts of Herndon. I don't know what you were thinking, but we had a great time.
No, I wanted to support, and I will tell you, you, the other ladies on council, and you've really inspired a lot of people. And you really should be feeling really good about where you've brought the town. And again, just I read some of the things that were accomplished, but you all deserve a ton of credit from everything you've accomplished and going forward.
Well, that's really nice, because I don't really view it as a role model type of job. We're there to get work done. We're there to improve the community. We're there to meet our constituents' needs. And you know, we live in Herndon, so it's all about how we want to make this town a place where we want to live, work, and play. And it's been really a pleasure to be able to be visible in the community and to be a more welcoming face for the town of Herndon.
I think you said it there. The town, for me, just objectively, is far more welcoming and inclusive than when I first moved there.
Absolutely. So, that's been part of the things I'm most proud about is the change in direction of the town and the feel of how the town interacts with its residents. We've become a much more open, progressive, and inclusive community. As you know, the first time we had an LGBTQ Pride Month proclamation was 2 years ago, and people were very surprised that we would do that. And my vision's always been that you lead by example. So it's not something that you want to make a point of, it's something that you want to make a statement about. That we are an inclusive town, we are a progressive town, this is where anybody and everyone can live, work, and play side by side.
Yep. Love it, love it, love it. What are some of the sort of priorities, I think, that you want to, because 4 terms now, I mean, you're going forward, people are going to want to know what's going on, what's in your mind. I've asked all the guests this, but what are your top buttons? What would you like to see?
Well, the group as a whole, we're all focused very much on the downtown and getting ready for Metro. Specifically in the downtown, I'm very excited to see the creation of an arts center. The Herndon is really a home for the arts. I know Sheila will tell you it's home for pedestrians and bikers, and that's also true. But it's really a home for the arts as well.
That's what's great, because you all have these different priorities, but you bring it together.
It's true. There's something for everybody in Herndon. If you're an athlete, we've got trails, we've got a park a quarter mile from every resident. If you like to eat, there are only 2 types of people in this world, those that live to eat and those who eat to live. So there are 120 restaurants in our 4.2 square miles.
That's amazing.
We have a thriving theater, a wonderful arts group, and we have wonderful activities for patrons of all ages and all interests. And so really in our 4.2 square miles, you can find something for everybody.
That's what's really cool about it. Really cool about it. So, what's been the biggest lesson learned out of this whole thing for you?
Well, the biggest lesson is really that you have to keep your eye on the ball. It's really easy to get distracted with things that are on a larger landscape that really don't have where we don't have the legislative authority to deal with. So, for example, the first time I was campaigning in 2010, we went and knocked on doors to meet potential voters, and they'd ask us, what is our platform? How do you feel about this issue? And one of the gentlemen asked me, what is your position on gay marriage? And I had to think about that. I said, well, the town of Herndon does not issue marriage licenses, so officially the town doesn't really have a position on that. Personally, I'm for it, but as an elected official, I would not be able to speak on that because it's outside of our jurisdiction. So to me, it's really important that your elected officials focus on the job at hand and they don't get distracted by other things that can take them away from their primary responsibility, which is to meet constituents' needs in terms of health, safety, and welfare in the town of Herndon.
It's land use, zoning, and budget, right? I mean,
land use, zoning, budget. That's police, that's public works, that's streets and sewers.
Should be easy to focus on that stuff.
Pretty basic. Just really improving the quality of life for everybody. You know, keeping the town growing economically, growing progressively, creating jobs, safe communities, places where people want to come and live. And what's really nice about Herndon is we have a community where people of all ages and all income brackets can live. So I really think that Herndon is one of the most representative American small towns you're going to find on this coast.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think that's why I was so happy to see you all move the elections, because you really are bringing in more people. And look, if your ideas are great, the majority of people vote for them, so be it, right?
Exactly. Herndon needs to, as much as I think Herndon reflects what America looks like, our elected body also needs to do that. And I was very proud to be the first Korean American woman ever elected here in the Commonwealth. There are only 3 Asian American electeds in all of the Commonwealth of Virginia. They all happen to be in Fairfax, which does have a significant Asian American population. And May is Asian American Heritage Month, and we'll be recognizing that at the Town Council this month with an appropriate proclamation. So to me, one of my big things outside of dealing with specific land use and zoning and budget things is to really be a conduit for communities of color to interact with their government and to find common pathways where communities who have maybe not been engaged or working with local government to find that avenue to do so, and it's been a real pleasure to be able to work with those communities.
No, that's amazing, and clearly a tribute to your sensitivity and leadership in that area. Because look, people are people. They are comfortable with relating to people that they know or perceive they know. So look, I'm there with you. I think you've made a tremendous impact on that.
Thank you.
So absolutely.
And we look forward to continue to work in that. I know that last term we did away with some language challenges that a prior council had put in place. At one point, English had been declared the official language of the Herndon Town Council, and we removed that ordinance from the books. And I'm hoping to find some more ways of making the town of Herndon a little bit more language accessible.
Look, I mean, last I checked, there were over 150 languages spoken in the homes of Fairfax County schools. Think about that.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of languages there.
It's a huge challenge, and language access is one of the biggest challenges facing all of Fairfax. By 2020, Fairfax is projected to be a majority-minority community. Asian Americans are 18 to 20% of that, and unfortunately, Asian Americans have the least highest English proficiency. So, for example, we might have a large population of Iranians, but their English proficiency is very high. Unfortunately, we have a large population of Asian Americans where the gap between how many we have and how well English is spoken in the home is very high. And I think that's one of the things Fairfax was going to need to recognize and tackle head on, because growth in Fairfax County economically, population-wise, is all going to come from some of these communities of color.
Oh, absolutely.
And if we're not able to harness the power of those communities, we're really not going to be able to thrive.
And to that point, I think I found that when you have outreach from people in those communities speaking the language of that community body, it's a lot more easy to connect and communicate information.
Absolutely.
Than you or I going into some...
And it's just a visceral thing. I mean, my example is there's a sense of immediate recognition. If you've ever walked into the wrong, well, I won't say a bathroom that you're not normally used to using, like, if you made that mistake, you walk and you realize, oh, this is the men's bathroom. I am not supposed to be here. Right. Now that's changing, luckily, because I'm hoping we do move to gender neutral bathrooms, but there's an initial sense of you don't belong. And so a lot of times for communities of color, when they try to go and engage local governments, and they see a bunch of faces that don't initially look like their own, there is that first reaction where maybe they shouldn't be there. And that's absolutely the wrong reaction you want your community to have.
Oh, I can tell you, my mom, she's an amazing woman. She raised me right, but she's more comfortable reading stuff in Spanish. Just, I mean, look, it is what it is. I mean, she can read some English, but she was like, "What these words?" It's like okay. But if you give her something in English, she'll consume it. Right. And I think she represents a lot of people that have come here, become citizens. And it's just like, it kind of be nice to read something occasionally, especially stuff that's pretty complex.
It would be, especially for things like voter registration and voter information. Last 2 years, I've been working with Fairfax County and the Registrar's Office to increase language access. So for the first time, 3 years ago, Fairfax County Registrar's Office produced voter information palm cards in Korean, and 2 years ago they produced them in Vietnamese, so those communities were able to access that voter information in their native language. This year we're working with the Registrar's Office again to continue to expand language access for some of these communities.
That's brilliant. When I was chair of the county committee, we produced videos and literature in 22 languages.
That's outstanding.
I mean, that's kind of how you have to do these things, right?
And honestly, we're lucky to live in a county where there are that many communities of color with that much vibrancy.
Yeah, and for the folks out there, no discriminating. I just went on the top 22 top languages spoken. I could find volunteers for these, and we just went with those. I mean, it wasn't anything, but man, we could have gone down the list.
Absolutely.
And just kept going.
Absolutely, and I know it's a big public safety challenge because they have to find bilingual translators for their 911 operators.
That's right. No, but look, I think you said it. It's a double-edged problem to have, right? I mean, it's a great diversity segment that we live in this county. So, what's the top thing going back? And you're going for 4, right? I mean, any big challenges? Anything you want to see? And how much longer are you going to do this for?
Oh my gosh. Well, I don't think I'm going to be comfortable until we've really gotten the downtown where it needs to be and where I feel like the town is really ready for Metro. We have a lot of work to do to get our communities ready for the type of development. And one of the things we want to make sure is Herndon is able to grow, but we're able to grow responsibly and without losing the character of what makes Herndon such an awesome place to be, because it's what brought us all here, it's why we stay, it's why we serve, and I certainly wouldn't want to lose that in translation.
Oh, good call. I don't think you would. I mean, I've said it before with the previous guest. I just think, and you have been on, along with Councilwoman Olem and Mayor Merkel, you've been on 6 years, going on your 4th term. What you all have done collectively is nothing short than awesome.
Well, thank you.
It absolutely
We're pretty excited. It's been an exciting time to serve.
Well,
really
you got a couple more terms in there, so make sure we get you in there. Any other parting wants as we close out here?
No, make sure everyone's registered to vote, and if you have registered to vote, make sure your friends, family, your neighbors all registered to vote, and you come out this November. We need every one of them.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Grace.
Thank you.
It's always good to have you on. Folks, we'll be back with our final segment and talk to you in a little bit. Thanks.
Some dreams are universal. Dreams that inspire us. Multiple sclerosis is a devastating disease that changes lives forever. The National MS Society does more for people with MS than any organization in the world. But we can't do it alone. To get involved, visit us online at nationalmssociety.org. or call 1-800-FIGHT-MS. This is why we're here. Because nobody dreams of having multiple sclerosis.
What's wrong with this picture? Half of young Americans can't locate economic powers like Japan and India. 20% can't even find the Pacific Ocean. Without geography, our children aren't ready for the world. Geography is everywhere. It's incredible creatures, rhythm, fashion, flavor. It's economics and politics. It's change. Understanding connections between people and places is critical in the 21st century. That's why we created mywonderfulworld.org. Go there now for your free parent and teacher action kits and give our kids the power of global knowledge. Because kids who understand our world today can succeed in it tomorrow.
We're back to the Inside Scoop. Here again, your host.
Folks, Cesar here, our last segment. Certainly not the least guest. I've got a dear friend of mine, John Farrell. He's been involved in the county area here for over 30 years. Before the board supervisors, planning commissions, zoning appeals, real estate development, a whole bunch of other stuff. But the reason I've asked him to come in and talk to us is he is also an activist in voter protection. And we're going to get into some of the things historically that we've done and some things maybe going forward. So, Mr. Farrell, sir.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you for coming on, man.
Anytime.
So, when I was chair of the county committee, you were the lead defense or the lead plaintiff against defending the right to vote.
That's right.
Basically. And I just wanted to, first of all, say thank you. I think that was amazing.
We accomplished a lot.
And it's important now, more so these days, because there are still elements out there that are going after the basic right to vote.
That's absolutely right. In fact, we're having one of those from the same people that we were dealing with 4 years ago. Yeah. That same individual is behind an organization that is now going around to the counties in Virginia and saying to them, there are too many people registered to vote.
Right.
I mean, that's unbelievable to me. As somebody who...
Too many of this type of person.
Well, they don't get to that, but that's clearly...
I can read between the lines, John.
Clearly that's the implication.
Yeah.
And it's actually some of the same individuals. Yeah. So as an example, here in Fairfax, we have 715,000 people registered to vote.
Sounds about right.
And that's about right. And that's about as many people as you'd expect.
Yeah, there's 1.4 million, half that registered.
That's right. And we're probably going to get more registered now with the governor's order that we can talk about in a second.
So we'll talk about that.
But these people have come and sent a letter to Fairfax County, the general registrar, and saying you have too many people registered to vote. According to our algorithms, these number of people shouldn't be here. You need to throw more people off the voting rolls. Yeah. To our credit, because we have an electoral board that is controlled by people who think like us, they're saying, forget it, we're not interested. But because they responded, I don't think we're going to see some litigation here, but this same group is actually suing the general registrar of Alexandria.
Oh my gosh, okay.
Saying, you've got too many people registered to vote, which is an amazing even concept.
So let's just briefly, for the folks at home, talk about what sort of the concern is with voter fraud, either registering people to vote versus people showing up at the polls committing fraud. I think those two have been conflated so much.
Well, when what we talk about, part of this comes out of this whole movement about 37 states or so, all of them having Republican legislatures and Republican governors, saying that you have to produce photo ID in order to vote. And some of them are more restrictive than others. Virginia's not as restrictive as many others, but it's still demanding.
So the contrarian view would say, well, we should have photo IDs. Everyone should have a photo ID.
Why?
Well, we know who they are.
Well, the problem is that for almost the entire time I've ever been voting, and I've been voting now since 1972, so you can do the math, I didn't have to have a voter ID. I could just walk in, say who I was, and I get to vote.
There's so much voter fraud out there.
Actually, that's a myth, as you and I both know.
But this is, again, there are people that believe. You've got the acorns that are registering a bunch of people, or had registered a bunch of people, and we need to know when they turn up at the polls that they are indeed the people that they are?
So when we actually do the studies, and when we have academicians at various and sundry colleges actually do the studies, it turns out that the instance of what we call voter impersonation, so in other words...
the polls.
At the polls.
Okay.
You come up...
That's not in registering Mickey Duck and Donald Mouse.
Right. It's not. That's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about with the photo ID is supposed to stop is you going to my precinct and saying you're me and you voting my ballot instead of me voting it.
Now, how many times has that happened in the Commonwealth in the last...
We have no instances of that happening in the Commonwealth that's been reported.
Folks, I've asked people to come on the show that claim there is widespread voter fraud. I can't get anyone to come on. So if you're out there and you know of an instance in the Commonwealth of voter fraud, please contact me. We'll get you on and we will pursue those people. Because I think if you are committing voter fraud, go to jail.
Well, that's a felony.
Yeah.
It's already a felony to
Absolutely.
do that in Virginia. Across the country, the number of instances where someone attempted to vote for somebody else is less than 25 over the last 10 years. And in many cases, what we found out...
So hundreds of millions of votes cast.
Hundreds of millions of votes last, about 25. And what we found out is, in some of those circumstances where there was such activity going on, it was truly... I'm voting because my dad didn't file his absentee ballot application in time. Dad wants to vote, so I'm going to go into the polling place and vote for my dad. I mean, 3 or 4 cases like that. It just doesn't happen. It's not. It's a solution in search of a problem. There is no such problem. What it really happens is, it really impacts is poor people and old people, and particularly people of color in the United States and in Virginia, because for people who are over, say, 60 years old or 70 years old, for people of color, they don't have birth certificates because they weren't born in a hospital. They were still being born at home in the 50s and 60s because so many hospitals wouldn't accept people of color to come in and give birth. So those folks may not have a birth certificate, may not have any kind of proof that they are who they say they are. So voter ID is really aimed at older people and people of color who don't have the information. They're not driving anymore because they've lost their driver's license or their ability to drive because of their physical frailty or some other kind of an arrangement. So the actual number of people who are impacted are far greater than the few unicorns out there where there's actually been some kind of a problem.
Have you seen, I mean, I have my opinion, but the Voting Rights Act.
Right.
There was a portion of that was not reinstated.
The pre-clearance provision.
So that led to a lot of this stuff of claims and, well, now's the time to fix it.
Right.
Well, there's not really a problem, is there?
Right. It's just the opposite. Again, so what the U.S. Supreme Court said was that that the Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, which talks about pre-clearance. So if we wanted to change in Virginia, because we were subject to the pre-clearance requirement, if we wanted to change the location of a polling place, we had to go and give notice to the Department of Justice, and they would say, okay, this isn't a problem. And what that did was it reduced the incentive for there to be people playing games with voting right, where you voted, how you voted, these kind of voter ID laws, and it really acted as a brake on these. And the way we know it is the day after the Supreme Court opinion came down, a lot of these bills all of a sudden start getting passed. The Texas legislature, the North Carolina legislature, and other legislatures that waited until the Supreme Court had invalidated the pre-clearance review under Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, and all of a sudden now we're getting all these kind of restrictions. Cutting back on the number of hours, cutting back on the ability to vote early. All kinds of stuff.
No, I get it. And I think it's perfect that you're here today in May, because what Herndon did is they increased the number of people that could vote.
By changing the date.
Changing the date.
Right.
I mean, if you want to make it more difficult, let's have it on New Year's Day. You know, let's have people vote on New Year's Day.
Or Christmas.
Or Christmas. I mean, it just, again, I've looked at the data. The number of actual cases of proven voter fraud over the last 10 years, over those hundreds of millions of votes cast.
Right.
I mean, it's not even a Six Sigma problem.
It is like, somebody did the numbers, it is point to the fourth 0.000005 out of all the votes cast over a 10-year period. I mean, if there is an issue with some kind of monkey business going on, it tends to be with mailed-in absentee votes.
Correct.
That tends to be where the impersonation problem goes in. A photo ID doesn't have any impact on that process. And again, even those instances are 0.00005.
So that was one of the areas that I remember we were addressing.
Right.
The mail-in.
Correct.
When there was an issue, those were getting tossed out.
Right, and what was scary for us, and one of the things we did when we were active in the FCDC leadership, was to re-emphasize to people that it makes a lot more sense for them to vote in person, absentee, and not mail it in, because there were so many little details that you had to put on that envelope. Even just signing it. If you didn't sign it, they would throw out your ballot. If you put in the wrong, if you dropped your middle initial, now that's changed, but they were throwing it out for all kinds of nitpicky reasons. It was almost like someone who was looking for a reason to throw it out.
Right.
So
versus the intent,
which was to make sure that the person voting was the person who had been sent the ballot. So that's one of the reasons why we, during the time of your leadership, we said, look, don't take the risk of having your ballot thrown out. Let's expand the early voting opportunity, and let's have as many people vote in person, so that this year, early voting on Saturdays will start October 1st and will continue for every Saturday through November 5th, and people will actually be able to go to their local government center, like Franconia, like North County, like the Providence Community Center, and they'll be able to vote in person starting October 1st. So the first day of election really is not November 8th, but October 1st.
And that's up to the campaigns and everyone to get the word out on that.
Well, it's also, I mean, for the League of Women Voters, everybody, because here's the deal. We have 715,000 voters in Fairfax County. We expect a 70% turnout. That's 490,000 people that we're trying to get through only 242 precincts in 13 hours. That's a lot of people trying to get through.
Wait, the scanners, right? They're still
We've got scanners, and they'll be faster, and that'll work
touch
better.
Things were awful.
They were terrible, and they weren't being maintained by their manufacturer.
Yeah.
But this way, we'll be able to get more people through the ballot. But something like 80% of the people who live in Fairfax County qualify to vote in-person absentee.
Right.
So if you
why don't we just call it early voting?
We could do.
Okay, yeah, but like official.
But that took the lawsuit to get them to stop turning people away when they said, "I'm here to vote early."
Right.
So if you live in Herndon but work in Loudoun County, you get to vote early. If you live anywhere in the county and work in the city of Fairfax or the city of Falls Church or downtown DC or Alexandria, you can vote early. Even if you live in Fairfax, if you commute from one part of Fairfax to another and your work day and your commute together, it's more than 11 hours, you can vote early. So people should be voting early in person.
This is why I love you, man. We could do another whole segment on this, another show. We're going to get you back here.
Sure.
Folks, thank you again for joining us. I really appreciate you being here. We'll be back next week.